Well, today our field trip takes us to Clermont Woodworking and Design. This is Keith Neer. He is the owner. Keith's going to show us all about woodworking. We're actually going to build a table together. But Keith, tell me a little bit about your business here at Clermont Woodworking and Design.
Well, this is a retirement business. I retired about 6 years ago. I build about 3 or 4 pieces of custom furniture a year. I also teach in my shop. I have some classes periodically. I do restoration work, kind of a very broad-based approach to woodworking.
Sure, so you do the design of the furniture and everything and then come back here and create it.
I do. I start with a piece of paper and work it to the finished product.
Well, you certainly have created many pieces of good-looking furniture, and you're going to help us build a table. So let's bring our specimen up here.
Sure.
We're going to take it step by step, and Keith's going to show us. This is a great hobby, too. So I guess we start out with the parts of a table.
We do, and all tables have at least 2 elements that are the same. We always have a top, of course, and legs to support it, and I suppose we could screw it together and call it a table. But our table has a 3rd element, and that's the skirt, which is that piece of wood that joins the legs together.
Sure. Now, one thing I noticed right away is I don't see any nails and I don't see any screws.
Well, if we do our job right, we won't.
All right, well, let's take this table apart. And then we'll show you exactly how, or he will show you exactly how to build it. I won't, I'm learning. All right, so we got the top off. And
yeah, this table is partially glued together, so we'll take this apart.
Yep, we're going to show you how to create all these pieces, which I find fascinating.
There we go.
All right, all right. So this is where we're going to start, I presume.
That's right. The first thing we need to do is create a joint, which is called a mortise and tenon joint. And the mortise is a square hole that we'll create here in a little bit. And the tenon is the portion of the wood that is left on the skirt that actually goes into the mortise.
All right, so these are going to fit together, but I assume we got to be a little bit precise. So how do we go ahead and cut this into the leg of the table? Okay,
I've actually mocked up a leg here that is rough, and I've identified, just with pencil mark, the position of the mortise. There'll be 2 of them.
All right.
And these lines at this place identify the limits of the mortise. Okay. And today we'll be using a mortising machine to actually cut a square hole. I've set the machine up so that the center of the mortise will be exactly where I want it, and the depth of the mortise will be what we need. And we just go ahead and chop it, which is the term used when we're making that mortise.
I guess before these machines, people made this stuff by hand, correct?
You can make a mortise with a mortising chisel and a mallet, and it was done that way for thousands of years.
All right, so now the next thing we need to create is the tenon?
It's tenon, yes.
Tenon.
T-E-N-O-N. And that's the portion of the wood that is left on the skirt that will actually go into that mortise. Okay. And today we'll be cutting that part of the joint on a table saw with a dado head on it that will remove a wide amount of wood. All
right, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll set this down. We have a piece of wood that we're going to show you how we're going to mark up so we get the cut right. But first we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll show you how to cut this. No, we'll put the table together. Now, to create that tenon, we're going to mark up this piece of wood here.
Yeah, I have a extra piece of wood that I mark as a setup piece, and on this end I've identified where that tenon is going to be cut. Okay. And we're going to remove the excess wood, and what we'll end up with is this tenon that sticks out the end of the board.
And what type of saw are we using on that?
We're going to use a table saw today with a dado head on it, but like the mortise, there's many ways to do this. Could be done by hand.
Very good, and of course we're going to end up with this, and that's going to fit right in there like so, and that's pretty cool. But one thing I notice here, the leg, it's tapered, so I guess we got to do something here.
Right, this leg is tapered. Obviously, from a strength standpoint, the table doesn't require that. It would work just fine, but architecturally we can make the table more attractive and give it a little bit of lightness in appearance by simply removing excess wood. And again, we're going to use a bandsaw today to do that, and a jig to hold the wood in the right orientation. But again, this could be done any number of ways, by hand, for instance.
Sure, but here you got to be accurate. You got to get the right measurements down here on all 4, right?
Exactly.
All right, so really when you have all this cut You got all your pieces. Assembly's next. Some assembly is required.
Some assembly is required.
All right. How do we do that? How do we assemble that?
Well, it's pretty simple. If we assume that our tenons fit, or we've fine-tuned them with a sandpaper and a block of wood, then we're ready to assemble them. And these two legs have already been glued to this tenon.
Okay.
And we've done that with the opposite set. And now what we can do is actually glue these skirts in to this side, okay, and bring the other piece to it, and ready to go.
So the frame, the structure is now built, and of course the top of the table got all kinds of choices here. I guess from a single piece of wood here, you actually have, it looks like, several pieces of wood.
Right. This is made out of walnut, and walnut boards typically don't come wide enough for us to make a tabletop, so I've actually glued 3 of them up together.
Okay.
But it could be a solid piece of wood.
Sure, sure. And you could leave the square sides, or you could do a little router.
That's where the ingenuity of the woodworker can come to play. We can leave it or do anything we wish.
What a great hobby woodworking is, and I know there's clubs folks can join. Tell me a little bit about the club you're involved with.
There's a great club in the Cincinnati area. It's the Cincinnati Woodworkers Club. We meet about 5 times a year, and we're made up of about 140 woodworkers from all around the city.
The Woodworking Club does a lot of charitable work too.
We made about 1,600 toys that were distributed this last Christmas, and the club's involved in making beds for the Appalachia area. Great opportunities to do charitable work for the community.
Now you have a website, right?
CincinnatiWoodworkingClub.org.
Well, it's been a great subject matter. I've really enjoyed it. And thanks. By the way, you got a great looking shop.
Thank you.